Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zeng here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online VGC 15 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. We're just going to jump into today's episode, currently sitting at a rating of 1588, 6-0. Of course, we did reset our rankings earlier on the week, but the last two episodes have been pretty good since we got back, so looking to continue the undefeated streak into today's episode. Of course, lower ladder, typically games are a bit easier, but we'll see how high we can go with this team. Of course, credits to this team go to Danny Hemchen, also known as Jabberwocky. We did use this team before I left for that 1 week, as we find a 1841 opponent from Japan, so this should be really exciting. As always, if you enjoy Road to Rank, please show your support by leaving a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. My opponent here is rocking a very strong team of Kangaskhan, Gardevoir, Landorus, Amoonguss, Zapdos, and Heatran. Mega Gardevoir, of course, is a Mega Evolution that's quite popular in Japan, finishing twice in the top 4 at their national championships this past week. But, you know, the dual Mega here is really interesting. Gardevoir, Amoonguss, Heatran, very strong combination. But it's kind of cool to see the fast mode of my opponent's team paired with the slow mode. And it's definitely a very scary team to go up against. So let's see what we want to lead with. These games are always a bit difficult because in best of one you have no idea which Mega Evolution your opponent's going to decide to bring, so you just have to try to figure out what Pokemon can beat either of them. Now Aegislash can actually be really solid here because my opponent, you know, has to rely on Earthquake and Heat Wave to knock me out, but neither of those KO me. With Wide Guard and Weakness Policy, you know, they might walk into it and I can take advantage of it. Volcarona is actually kind of tempting here just because of it counters Amoonguss pretty well with the Lumberry. I can get a Quiver Dance up, but of course, you know, I don't do very much damage to the Heatran, and Landorus can Rock Slide me. But part of me wants to bring it, honestly. Especially because I just don't have a great way to deal with Amoonguss. Like, it's not like I want to bring Togekiss in this matchup. It's not really doing much more than Volcarona is, so I'm actually leaning towards the Volk. Something like Landorus Volk makes some sense to me. Yeah. Though, I don't know, I think Rotom Wash might be necessary in this match for the Heatran Landorus. Actually, yeah, I think Rotom Wash is a bit better to bring in this one. I can see my opponent going with the faster mode of his team, so I could definitely see Kangaskhan Landorus being a potential lead. You know what? I actually really like Landorus Rotom. Yeah, Kangaskhan Aegislash. I like that a lot. I also feel like my opponent might not end up bringing the Amoonguss, but, you know, in best of one, it's really so hard to tell, so we'll see whether I regret this decision or not. It's not like Amoonguss is incredibly difficult to knock out on my opponent's end, but, you know, it still causes a lot of issues, because if it can get a Spore off, especially on their Trick Room, that can be quite problematic. But it looks like we're going to see the Landorus Gardevoir lead for my opponent here, as I'm going to go with my Landorus and Rotom. So, you know, immediately I do get the Intimidate off, but Gardevoir definitely appreciates the position it's in right now, as Landorus' Intimidate goes before mine, confirming the Choice Scarf since I am max speed. So that's always good to know. One of the few times where it's actually not bad losing a speed tie. And Gardevoir here is going to be able to trace. It traces the Levitate. You know, it was going to trace one of two good abilities, so I'm sure my opponent's pretty happy about that one. Just looking at my opponent's team, I think we're going to see the Landorus. I mean, there's little reason for my opponent's Landorus to stay in here, so it's definitely going out, but the question is, who is it going to go out into? I think Gardevoir here is going to probably try to set up Trick Room, given that we do see Gardevoir instead. And I think it's either, I mean, it has to be Heatran or Amoonguss really coming in here. Amoonguss honestly makes the most sense to me, and that's kind of problematic since I didn't bring many great ways to deal with it. So I think what I have to do here is I'm going to, you know, do as much damage to Gardevoir here as possible, and go for the U-turn. That way I get to switch into Kangaskhan and get Fake Out Pressure. Though, in retrospect here, the Gardevoir might choose not to Trick Room and just go for the Hyper Voice, which could also work, but I guess we'll see. So it's going to Mega Evolve immediately. My Landorus here is going to U-turn first. So we're just going to get out of here. That does a lot more damage than I anticipated. Maybe I should have just Hydro Pumped that slot, actually. I was not anticipating that much damage, though I guess Gardevoir is so frail. And I think Aegislash is a better call here, actually. Just because of the fact that it's slow, it counters Gardevoir can Wide Guard. I guess we'll see whether Gardevoir went for the Hyper Voice or not, but we're going to see the U-turn from the Landorus as well, so both of us opting for that turn 1 U-turn onto, you know, the non-Landorus's, and he's going to be able to swap out as well, so we'll see whether he brings in something that's more suitable for Trick Room, because it's very likely that my opponent tries to set up Trick Room right now. It is going to be the Amoonguss as I anticipated, so I could, right now I'm kind of regretting not bringing Volcarona, but let's see if Thunderbolt can knock out the Gardevoir. Unfortunately not. Hydro Pump definitely would have been able to KO, but, you know, I had to deal with the miss. He actually, however, does go for the Hyper Voice instead of the Trick Room, which is good. So, you know, now at least it means he won't be able to get up Trick Room. Now I do get a free switch and back into whatever I want. I'm actually going to bring in Landorus here. I don't like the position I'm in, and I honestly might have to be fishing for a flinch. So I really wish I went for the U-turn and the Hydro Pump into Gardevoir. It would have been a more aggressive play, but I'd rather deal with the 80% chance of KOing than 100% chance of not KOing. So now I'm going to go for the Rock Slide, and I'm just going to Shadow Ball the Amoonguss here. So this puts me in not the best of positions, and Gardevoir is going to go for the Protector. That is the best play that the Gardevoir can make. So I'm going to Rock Slide. He's probably going to be sporing the Landorus slot, so basically, if I get a flinch here, I would be in a really good position. If I don't get the flinch, that sets me back a lot. So it's crazy how much one flinch can matter, but you know, if I don't get it, it's okay. I'll try to play around it, but yeah, we'll see whether we get it or not. As I do get a special defense drop onto Amoonguss, so it is in KO range. Unfortunately, no flinch. He's going to be able to get the Spore off successfully against the Landorus, but you know, you can't expect it, and that's alright. So he's going to be able to put that to sleep, which is obviously not too great for me right now. He's probably going to Spore the Aegislash slot and Psychic / Hyper Voice. So I'm just going to Shadow Ball the Amoonguss, honestly, and just take a turn of sleep with Rock Slide. You know, I can wake up. He's actually makes the best play possible switching Amoonguss out, which is a very smart play. Back into the Landorus. However, that does mean I get a free Shadow Ball in that slot, which is nice. The bad thing here is he's going to be able to get a Hyper Voice off, and I'm going to be taking a lot of damage with both of my Pokemon since I didn't King Shield here. So Landorus is going to take a turn of sleep as he does go for the Hyper Voice here with Gardevoir. So that should have knocked me out, but does way more than, you know, than I really wanted. However, Aegislash here at least gets a Shadow Ball off, which is nice. And that does a very good amount of damage, but obviously not quite enough. I could just King Shield Rock Slide now. I could also Wide Guard, but I think I'm going to go for the... This is actually kind of interesting because my opponent might not want to walk into a Wide Guard, so I could take advantage and maybe attack with the Aegislash this turn. Because I would probably U-turn back out. And Psychic maybe? So I guess he gets Psychic Aegislash. I guess I'll play it safe. I'll just King Shield Rock Slide here. Let's see what he goes for. He's not going to switch out, but there's little reason to switch out when you can U-turn out with Landorus. So I'm going to King Shield, prevent myself from getting knocked out, meaning Gardevoir can't Hyper Voice or Psychic to KO me even the following turn. Unfortunately, Landorus doesn't wake up here. If I had woken up there, it would have been really, really huge. He actually just goes for the Rock Slide here with his Landorus. We'll see if his Gardevoir goes for his Hyper Voice. It's going to knock out my Landorus, unfortunately. So waking up there would have been clutch because I could have knocked out Gardevoir and gotten the flinch chance. He goes for the Hidden Power, so yeah, Wide Guard wouldn't have really helped me since he does have Hidden Power, presumably Ground. So I'm going to bring in Kangaskhan now, but it's going to be a difficult game to really win at this point because all he has to do is switch out the Landorus. But, you know, presumably he's going to switch out Landorus. I'm just going to Shadow Ball that slot. Now this is a game where if I had Power Up Punch, I'd have a very solid chance at winning, but unfortunately I do not have Power Up Punch, so winning it will be quite difficult. And the reason why, if I had Power Up Punch, I would be able to Power Up Punch this turn, knowing that the Landorus is switching out, and then when it comes back in, I could just Sucker Punch it, but, you know, that's just not how this team is. So I'm just going to Shadow Ball that slot. Nothing can really take a Shadow Ball, and I'll just go for the Double Edge onto... if my opponent's smart here, he's just going to attack with the Gardevoir. And I don't really have, I don't really have much of a way to win this one if my opponent plays smartly. Maybe if I get a crit here. Oh wow, he stayed in with both Pokemon. That is a questionable decision. Oh, I also just misplayed. I should have Sucker Punched. Okay, well he protects with Gardevoir. Never mind then. And then he just goes for a Rock Slide. Actually, yeah, I don't know what I was really thinking there. I could have just faked out. But Kangaskhan flinches from the Rock Slide, which wouldn't have really mattered. Hopefully Aegislash knocks out the Landorus here, as it does. I'm kind of surprised that my opponent made that play, just because I thought Landorus would have closed the game up pretty nicely, but at least I managed to pick up a knockout. So it's definitely not over yet, but we'll see what my opponent decides to bring in here. I would guess Amoonguss. Yeah, gonna be that Amoonguss. There's a small window of opportunity to win this one, surprisingly. It's never over until it's over. I mean, with a Rocky Helmet... I think if you're my opponent here, you Rage Powder with the Amoonguss. So I'm going to Double Edge into the Gardevoir slot. since Amoongus isn't the one doing offense right now. Okay, but the question is, can I wide guard really to prevent anything? I think if my opponent's smart, I mean, we've seen Protect, HP Ground, Hyper Voice. Actually, now thinking about it, he probably doesn't have Psychic. So maybe I could take advantage of that. Yeah, I'm going to go for the wide guard this turn. And I'm going to double edge. Into Gardevoir, yeah. Alright, let's see what he does. So I get the wide guard off. He Rage Powders, yep. If he's smart enough, he's going to go for the Hidden Power Ground once again. Or maybe a Trick Room, actually. And if that is if he does go for the Trick Room, then I'm going to feel a bit silly. Though I'm not even sure if I can knock out the Amoongus here with the double edge. Oh, so close, but not enough, unfortunately. As, yeah, I'm at very low HP at this point. And Gardevoir does go for the Hyper Voice, so that keeps me in the game a bit longer at least. But I think I actually needed the knockout onto Amoongus if I wanted to win this one. So that was really, really close, but unfortunately not enough. Now all you have to do is Rage Powder. Hidden Power Ground, would you? Kangaskhan? I mean, well, actually, no, regardless of who his last one is, I don't think I can win. He just needs to knock out Kangaskhan here. And the way you do that is you just Rage Powder and attack with Gardevoir. You HP ground the Kangaskhan, I think so, yeah. So I'm trying to find a way out of this one, but I don't really see one, unfortunately. I needed that knockout onto Amoongus because I'm guessing my opponent's last one is Heatran. I mean, or Zapdos, I guess. But now I think all my opponent... Yeah, if my opponent plays correctly, he just has to Rage Powder, Hidden Power Ground. But I guess I'll double into the Gardevoir slot here. But yeah, he's going to be smart and just Rage Powder. So smartly played on my opponent's end there. The Amoongus surviving was definitely really clutch. And I'm going to get the double edge off here to knock out the Amoongus, but unfortunately, you know, not enough. And the Rocky Helmet, obviously fantastic, working out very nicely here. And I'm actually going to knock myself out from the double edge. So Hidden Power at ground is just going to go into the Aegislash. And, oh wow, no, I hang out with 1 HP. Yeah, and he does make the right play going for the Hidden Power here. So that's going to knock out Kangaskhan. So unfortunately, this was really, really close, but I was just kind of outclassed by my opponent, I'd say for the majority of the match. I think that first turn kind of dictated the entire match, actually. If I could have just knocked out the Gardevoir with the Rotom, I would have had a huge advantage in this match. I mean, I guess it'll come down to his last one is. I'm guessing Heatran, but it could be Zapdos as well. We'll see. Not that it matters since the game is basically over at this point, but it is going to be that Heatran. Yeah, so looking back at it, I really should have targeted on Gardevoir that first turn. I didn't think U-turn plus Hydro Pump would be able to knock out, but, you know, it was very close since Thunderbolt brought it down to very low HP. So he's going to be able to Earth Power here to knock out the Aegislash. Very well played on my opponent's end. Difficult matchup for sure also, since I wasn't sure what Mega Evolution was going to bring. In terms of Pokemon, I don't think I brought the wrong Pokemon. I just could have played a bit better. You know, predicted a bit harder here and there, but very nicely done on my opponent's end, and great game there. If anything, one of the crucial things in this game was my Landorus getting Spored. That was really, really bad for me. I couldn't really afford to get Spored, and that really set me behind a fair amount. So, 1, not knocking out Gardevoir sooner, and 2, getting Spored, because if I knocked out Gardevoir, he wouldn't have been able to put on, you know, more pressure. Still, really hard-fought game on my opponent's end, and credits to him. Shows the power of Mega Gardevoir, really. So, close one, but we're going to try to recover in this next game of today's episode, currently sitting at a record of 6-1. So, you know, if we get matched with an opponent around our rating, we could put us over the 1600s. But that was a loss that I think there's a lot to learn from. And this team is a team that doesn't like dealing with Amoongus too much. The thing that can really beat it is the Volcarona with the Lumberry, but Volcarona is checked pretty hard by a lot of Pokemon like Heatran and Landorus, so that's why I didn't bring either of those two. We're going to find Fatsu from France with a rating of 1527 for our next opponent of today's episode, with quite the interesting team. Azumarill, Sceptile, Goodra, Milotic, Klefki, and Pachirisu. That is a strange assortment of Pokemon. I really don't know what to expect, honestly. I like actually just leading with Kangaskhan Volcarona. Yeah. It's just a bunch of really offensive Pokemon, though Sceptile actually gets access to Rock Slide, which is sometimes scary. So I kind of want Landorus in the back for the Azumarill, the Klefki, and the Pachirisu. And for the last one, leaning towards Rotom Wash here. Actually, I think Aegislash might be a bit better call since he can't knock me out, whereas Togekiss and Rotom Wash, he can do a fair amount of damage too. So, try to recover from that last loss as we go into this game. One of the scariest things about playing, you know, unfamiliar Pokemon is you don't know what kind of movesets they'll be using. So, you know, that Sceptile, the Mega Evolution on my opponent's team, actually really don't have any idea what it's going to be trying to do. But he's going to lead with the Milotic and the Sceptile. Okay. As I go with Kangaskhan and Volcarona. So this actually works out in my favor because what I'll be able to do is just Fake Out and Quiver Dance immediately. And the nice thing about Volcarona is because, you know, Volcarona's with Giga Drain, you threaten those bulky water types a fair amount. So, you know, they might choose to Scald or Hydro Pump you, but then you can actually heal back a lot with Giga Drain, which is why I love Quiver Dancing, since Volcarona outspeeds all the, you know, typical bulky water types. So, Sceptile being pretty frail by itself can also take a lot of damage just if I get a Fake Out off. So we'll see what my opponent goes for, but it's a pretty decent lead matchup. But he actually reveals the Quick Guard, which is a fantastic move there on the Sceptile, which I really wasn't anticipating, but that's what I mean. You know, you can use these Pokemon to really catch your opponent off guard. I don't mind that too much though, as long as the Milotic doesn't go for an Icy Wind, and it does go just for a Scald, which is good here. It's going to target down the Volcarona because of the +1, though I don't take too much damage. So let's see. I'm going to Double Edge here and Protect, actually. I don't know how fast he is. I think he might actually outspeed me even with the +1. Though this is me not knowing my base speeds very well. He actually switches out, which I'm okay with, because whatever is coming is going to be taking a Double Edge. It's going to be the Goodra, which is perfectly okay with me, so that works out very nicely. I almost Sucker Punched Heat Wave that slot too, so Kangaskhan getting that Double Edge off, going to be able to do a whole lot of damage to that Goodra, with the Gooey decreasing my speed here. But let's see, is it enough to knock it out? It isn't, but I actually don't mind that because Goodra is less of a threat than anything else, so this actually puts me in a more advantageous position. I do take a lot of recoil, of course, so he goes for the Scald here, smartly onto the Kangaskhan, so nicely predicted on my opponent's end there. And he does get the burn as well, so that does set me back a bit, but you know what, that's alright. Now what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go for another Sucker, or not, yeah, the Sucker Punch onto the Goodra for sure. And actually I kind of just want to Giga Drain here. Yeah, I was going to go for another Quiver Dance, but at this point, I'd rather get some damage off against the Milotic so the Landers in the back can come in without much worry. As this Kangaskhan is now sitting at -3 speed. But I do knock out the Goodra in one hit, so unfortunately Goodra not being able to do very much. Not exactly the most common dragon types in VGC. I do get the +1 Giga Drain off, shouldn't knock it out, but does a very good amount of damage. That should heal back a whole lot of health for Volcarona, almost bringing me all the way back to full HP. He's going to launch another Scald here, I would guess onto Volcarona. Yep. Bringing me just around the exact same HP, as Kangaskhan takes some burn damage, but this is pretty good for me, as I knocked out one of my opponent's Pokemon, and the Milotic is at pretty low HP. The Azumarill comes out here, which is a pretty good call on my opponent's end, especially because it probably has access to Aqua Jet, which is kind of an issue. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to Double Edge the Azumarill, and I'm actually going to Protect with my Volcarona. What I want to do is sacrifice the Volcarona so I get a free switch into a Landorus. Which is weird because, you know, normally Landorus you don't really want to bring in this position. As he actually goes for the Recover with my Milotic. Great move on his end, and he didn't go for the Aqua Jet, so my opponent really outplaying me this turn. He's going to go for the Waterfall there onto Volcarona though. Okay, so I'm wondering if he even has Aqua Jet. But I get the Double Edge off, which is great, because free damage against an Azumarill is always really, really fantastic, as Kangaskhan here is going to faint. So it goes down. Now I was not anticipating Recover and Waterfall, though both of those moves are moves that those Pokemon typically carry, so that was kind of not a very smart decision on my end. You know, I should have just anticipated those a bit better. Now given that he didn't Aqua Jet, I really want to bring in Aegislash here, and I think I'm going to just do that. I'm going to Shadow Ball and Giga Drain here. Because I'm guessing he doesn't have Aqua Jet, but maybe my opponent was expecting that. And if that was the case, that would be a really, really smart play on my opponent's end, so we'll see if he has Aqua Jet. Nope, he's not going to Aqua Jet, and fortunately enough, he's not Sap Sipper either. That would have been pretty crazy. So Giga Drain here does knock out the Azumarill. I would guess maybe Choice Banded, since Waterfall typically not on your Belly Drum or your normal sets, though it could also be Assault Vest. But we do knock it out here in one hit, which is really, really good. He's going to get a Scald off here, targeting the Aegislash actually, instead of the Volcarona. So you get a free Shadow Ball off here against the Milotic as well, which is really good. So slowly getting to that end game, as it brings it under 50%. However, I do give it the nice competitive boost, which is always, always scary. Oh boy. That's why I hate Shadow Balling against Milotic. So he's going to bring out the Sceptile now. I'm just gonna King Shield, or yeah, King Shield, and Giga Drain. So let's see what he does. The reason why I'm King Shielding is because Scald at +2 shouldn't knock me out, so that way I'll be able to get another Shadow Ball off, and make sure he doesn't knock me out. So I'm just playing a bit safer. I'm not sure if he outspeeds me here. He actually doesn't outspeed me with the Mega Sceptile. Okay, so Giga Drain knocks out the Milotic. It's something I should really know better, but Mega Sceptile is really not ever used in VGC. I've played against it maybe once competitive-wise, so it's, you know, that's the nice thing of catching your opponent off guard, but he's going to go for a Dragon Pulse here. That's not going to do anything to Volcarona. Yeah, you see how well it takes that after a Quiver Dance, and that's why Volcarona is really, really clutch. So now you just have to Shadow Ball, Heat Wave, and that's going to be game. Really scary game, actually, just because I was unfamiliar with a lot of my opponent's Pokemon, mainly the Mega Sceptile, but everything else, too, was a bit scary. Regardless, though, you know, you just played as safe as possible, and we were able to close it out with a 3-1 win. So, we do take our first loss this week, but we also managed to close out with a win. So, 5-1 so far with the team, which is not bad, but we'll see how much higher we can climb up in the next couple of days as we continue to climb up the online ladder. But yeah, that's going to be it for this one, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, leave a like if you did, and I shall see you guys tomorrow. Alright, peace.